your best requires commitment. We share that dedication to excellence. Introducing new Titleist 917 medals, the standard for complete performance.
I guess the Shriners Open, where Rod ended up winning, you tied for 4th. How much does confidence play a part in a recent good result coming into the Australian Open?
It really helps, I think. I was trending the right way. I mean, I had a pretty rough year, all in all, like the 12 months, I guess, from this week last year, if you like. But kind of April and May, it started turning around. I mean, I could tell the scores maybe didn't look a little bit better, much better, but I was trending the right direction, and I didn't make the playoffs, the FedEx Cup playoffs, so I had like a forced 6 or 7 weeks off. So the trend line was going the right direction. Then I kind of had to take quite a long time off and kind of lost a bit my first couple of tournaments, but I feel like I got back on the trend line. Does that make sense? Last week. I knew good weeks were coming. I mean, I liked where my golf was at, so... but again, you never know when you're going to have one, and having one, I was probably close to the lead on Sundays a couple of times, maybe tied at one point or one behind. We were always a couple too far back of the guys in the last group, which was Pamps and Koepka and Lucas, I think. But I got a feel for contention a little bit again, and that is the part that I've always enjoyed the most. So I think I left with a good confidence boost and more contentment with golf, because I just contended. I mean, I'm much happier contending than not contending. It's much more fun doing that. So nice. Even though I knew I was playing well, it's definitely nice to get runs on the board before you come here. You know, like I've been excited to play for a whole week. You know, so that's always a good thing.
Geoff, what are you looking for out of the Australian tournaments? The last few years, quite a few players have used them as a springboard to really good years in America.
Well, that would be great, obviously. Yeah, what Jordan did here a couple of years ago, that round he shot on Sunday, he seemed to not miss a beat for 12 months after that. I don't know. I mean, it'd be great if the Australian Open could take credit for that, but I think that was probably going to happen anyway. But yeah, it'd be really nice. I mean, this is actually going to be my last tournament for the year until January. So, and this is a major for us. I mean, this is we probably get a bit blasé about the Australian Open when we're over there and we're playing and we're not really thinking about it. But as soon as we get here, this is, I mean, especially well, for every Australian, but it hits me every time I come back to this tournament how important this tournament is for us. So, yeah, it's a major for the Australian players, I think. So. Yeah, I just it'd be great Christmas break if I could win this, the last tournament of the year, and kind of springboard off this for next year.
Mark?
Geoff, how does Royal Sydney fit your eye? I think 206 you were second to Sendo, is that right?
Yeah, I played well that year.
Did you have a putt to go in a playoff or something, maybe?
He was a group behind. I feel like I finished the tournament really well, and he made some crazy birdie on 17. Like, you can't hit it to 20 feet and hit it to this, right? And I think I ended up having like a 15-footer on the last that would have got me in the playoff, but I think he was behind me. He might have birdied the last two. I think he birdied the last 2 holes. Yeah. Yeah, when Bads won, I mean, my first one here, when Aaron won, I played with Greg in the last round, like 3rd last group maybe, which at the time was a big tournament for me. And then I think I've always done okay here. Yeah, 2006 I had a real chance. But it's probably one of my happier hunting grounds in Sydney, probably, so no reason the course isn't all there for me, you know.
Keys to play well here? Stay out of the bunkers?
Yeah, when were we here last? 4 years ago? When Rory won, right? On the last hole? You got to get a good draw out here in Sydney. Sydney is very draw dependent, and you can get those afternoon winds that come in that the morning didn't have. And we've had a couple of crazy bits of weather on this course over the years. But yeah, keep it out of the bunkers. Take advantage of because there's a lot of scoring holes out there. I mean, the par 5s are pretty gettable, and the first hole's a pretty gettable hole, but you can also mess them up. So hit it straight and hold lots of putts. Really, make good decisions. It's not a long course in modern terms, so it's more keep the ball in play and make a bunch of putts, really.
Geoff, double barrel question for you. What was the difference last week, finishing tied fourth? As you said, it had been a tough year. You might not want to answer this one. How much money does make it interesting at Whisper Rock when you go out to play around?
The difference, I've been hitting the ball well for quite a while. I just started making a few more putts, I think. I kind of was paying more attention to my ball striking because that's what used to let me down, so I kind of went down that ball striking way and probably neglected putting a little bit. Not neglected the practice, but probably neglected being really diligent and doing it really the right way, because I was really kind of focused on it. And you know what golf's like, everybody gets about, you get a bee in your bonnet about what you want to do, and I was just down that track and probably neglected to acknowledge that the scores were the putting thing, it wasn't a ball striking thing at all. But I'm not the first golfer to do that. And you know what, the games we play at Whisper are usually escalating kind of bets, so they start off sounding very docile, and then with presses and doubles and there's usually multiple games going in one group. You'll be playing all our 3 guys, but there'll be a best ball amongst 4 of you, and then there'll be a skins game on top. And like, it doesn't start off very much money, but it can go bad if you play really poorly, or it can go really well if you play well. It doesn't take much. I mean, look, just the way most of us are, if we went out and played for nothing, for $1, that's enough. It's the pride issue, really. It's not the money issue. It's the getting the dollar out of the other guy's pocket, isn't it? That's the thrill. So it doesn't take much. They don't get too crazy. There's only ever a few $100s here and there, max.
Geoff, how do you compare this field to when you won the Australian Open a few years ago?
Compare the which?
The field.
I assume, I don't know, I feel like it's probably better now, but I can't remember who was there. Was that 2010? I can't remember who was there. Scotty was there. You'd have to look at the field list, I can't remember. But it's obviously this tournament really, ever since kind of maybe the Grand, when was that, 2000, 2001? And the Moon and Links stuff, like the Grand and the Moon and Links kind of period where the Australian Open was kind of like really trying to find itself. The last sort of 10 years, it's got better every single year. It felt like a bigger and bigger tournament. It's had a couple of really big years. The year that Rory and Adam shot like 10 under or something on the first round, and it was trying to win all the tournaments in the summer. I mean, that was a big tournament. It felt big. It feels like it's got bigger every year for like the last 10 years, so I would assume that the field is probably stronger, but I couldn't tell you exactly.
Bruce.
Geoff, away from the playing side of the game, the design business, is it something you're getting more involved in, less involved in? Where do you stand with that at the moment? Probably
more involved in. We've got a project in the US now, in Texas, which is much more. I'm much more available to be there more often, you know, because it's easier to get to. So that's going really well, more and more. Yeah, it's definitely will take when I let it take more time. It could take. I could be doing it all day, every day, you know. But golf's still the priority. But it's definitely the more I get on site and see properties change from nothing to a golf course, or from an average golf course to a better golf course, or whatever. It's the process is so fun, and it's something I really enjoy. So hopefully I can do that for a long time and gradually become more that than I am a golfer. But at this point, I don't see anything other than golf being the priority. But it's fun.
Is that okay, ladies and gentlemen? All questions?
Sorry, Geoff,
oh, sorry.
So paired with Jordan and Curtis, first 2 rounds.
Yeah.
Do you know much about Curtis? Have you met him? And just perhaps talk about the difference between when you were an amateur and the amateurs that we see today. They do seem professional ready long before they turn pro.
They're so good now, aren't they? It's incredible. I think the coaching is not so much the whole thing about preparing a guy to get on tour is much better than it used to be. And it was really good when I did it, but it's obviously clearly a lot better now. Golf Australia is much more on the same page with the golfers as before. There was a bit of a AGU versus amateur golfer kind of don't turn pro mentality. And now it's like, well, how do we make it better for you when you do turn pro? Like, so I think the mentality in Australia is really good like that. And yeah, they're great. I mean, I watched him play kind of the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 holes of the US Amateur probably. I can't say I watched the whole week, but I definitely watched the last sort of 5 or 6, which was obviously really exciting. And then he won the Asian one too, so he's in the Masters twice, right? That's a hard thing to do for anybody. Double exemption in the Masters. So yeah, I'm excited to play with him. It'd be great, and obviously playing with Jordan's always fun. Yeah, I mean, last year he had probably the second or third best year any golfer's ever had. Maybe. At least top 3 worst, right? So anyone who's done that, it's always a thrill to play with. You can always learn a lot the way he gets around a course. He, more than anyone, seems to always sign for 1 or 2 less than you think he should have every day, you know? And that's always the sign of the great players. Tiger was always like that. He signed for 5 less than you thought he should. And Jordan's one of those guys. He gets the best out of his round almost every time you play with him, and that's something you can observe and get something out of probably. But yeah, Curtis will be fun. He looks like a great player that I don't think I've seen him hit it except for on TV, but he's obviously dominating amateur golf, so it'll be fun.
Brendan?
Geoff, apart from obviously wanting to win this week yourself, would it surprise you if an amateur got up this week?
No, probably not. It was surprising when Bads won, don't you think, a little bit? Not probably, well, even to us, and we knew how good he was, and it was still kind of surprising. There was still quite a separation between the best amateur and the pros who are winning a tournament like this. There was quite a big gap, but there isn't really that big a gap. The gap is really only in experience, not in skill now, which is still big, but their skills are probably almost better. Some of these guys swing it great, they hit it great. They're, as Rod said, they're almost pros now, before they are pros. No, and the scores I keep seeing shot, like last week, obviously there was a Coletta, he nearly won, right?
No.
And he's a great player too, right? Yeah, so it would be less of a surprise than it was in '99, I would say.
Mark?
Geoff, with the sort of hibernation, I suppose, of the Masters, and your glowing thoughts on this tournament, and the PGA going well to get on the European Tour, have you got a thought of how you would like the Australian Summer of Golf to look?
I'd like 25 tournaments for similar money to we play for in the US, so I can live here. Melbourne deserves a golf, well, should have a golf tournament. Clearly, it does this year, but it's not a full field one, and it'll have the President's Cup in a few years, and that's great for the golf watcher, I guess, but for the players on the tour, the Masters there needs to be a replacement for the Masters. I mean, that 3 tournament thing was a good little run, don't you think? Fill the year up with whatever you can, get as many great little tournaments like Vic Opens and stuff like that as you can, New South Wales Open. But it's nice. I mean, we're all kind of sequestered in the US a little bit doing what we do, and in Europe, but if there was a good 3 or 4 tournaments kind of now or January or whenever it fits with everybody, that would be great. I think Melbourne's a good enough golf city that it should have a regular tournament. If Sydney's going to have a regular tournament, I think they complement each other well. And having a Queensland tournament, I mean, it'd be great to see 3 or 4 really good tournaments. Back to back too, like well scheduled. Schedule's very important for us. There's probably a few guys missing from this field because they're playing Sea Island this week, or they couldn't get from Mexico to here. I mean, they're small tournaments historically, but they're way more important than this for a career perspective for a guy who's grinding for his career. I mean, you miss your card by a few dollars because you didn't go to Mexico and you chose to come here, well, it doesn't work out. So, like, the scheduling is very important. I don't know how we get that worked out, but it would be, we can support 3 or 4 really good tournaments in a row, I would have thought, Australia.
Can we conquer that schedule problem with the US? Can we conquer that scheduling problem with the US?
I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one. I mean, you're also fighting against Dubai and stuff now, like the end of the European Tour. I don't know. Economically, I don't understand all the economics of stuff like that. I mean, but I know if you put on good golf tournaments in Australia, people will go. So, just got to find good golf tournaments, I guess.